write a half-page summary on the purpose, use, and terms of an Access database. That, fair enough, is there within our learner guide, so I'm not going to touch on that too much. Number 2, briefly explain 3 scenarios where you would use a database at your work or church or business. That is up to you to show your understanding of what a database does, which would have come from question 1.1. Question 1.3 says, explain why one would rather use a database management system rather than a mere spreadsheet. That is covered in the first module of our learner guide. So that module 1 or module 2, I'm going to open that learner guide now so that I do some referencing on that part. So it doesn't really need our collective engagement on this one. Number 4, what is the consequences of changing fields in a database? That one is really covered in our learner guide as well, so we're not going to dwell too much on it. Number 5, what is the consequences of changing your field data type? I remember we went through that one expansively last week. And number 6, explain the difference between searching a database and filtering a database. And we covered that one extensively as well. And we did have facilitator Ola there as well, and he took us through that one very well as he was showing us the difference on that part. So that is question 1. Are there any questions or contributions in that regard from the team? You can just put up your hand if you have a contribution to take. All right, seeing that no hands are coming up, my assumption then is we're all good with question 1. It should be fairly, let me not say easy, but it should be fair enough that we can all attempt it and get that one as we move on. Question 2, which is more practical, it says, now create and prepare a database to provide a solution to the problem below. So we're meeting a company called ABC Properties, Private Properties, and it's ABC Private that needs to file records of properties they own and that they resell. They need to store information about a property such as property information that includes building details, area information, and price information. They also need to store information about their employees. So the whole task here is for you to analyze what the problem statement is saying. From the same problem statement, you must identify the tables that would be in your database. Are you going to create one big table which is going to show area information, will show price information, will show building details, will show information on employees? Do you think that's the kind of spreadsheet that you want to create? Or are you coming in and saying, no, I'm going to use a database for this one, and I'm going to break down specific pillars of this content. For example, I'm going to come in and talk about a building, and in the building it will be separate because I can take the building from one area and place it, can take the same building from Johannesburg, rebuild it in Ekurhuleni, and take the same building and rebuild it in Hartebees, and rebuild it in Pretoria, rebuild it in Krugersdorp. So maybe what I should do is just take buildings as a table on its own, and I'll be specific to that particular building so that it is unique in its structure. Maybe number 2, you'd go in and say my second table would be area information, because I could be in Pretoria, I could be in Midrand, I could be in Soweto, I could be in Glenfair, I could be in wherever within the Gauteng province. But so maybe when it comes to area information, that should be a table on its own. Then I must determine what type of area information do I want. Do I want a suburb? Do I want a postal code? Do I want a region with regard to metros? Do I want, so all of those aspects, you begin to reflect to the assessor to say, I've thought through, I understand what area information is, and these are the attributes that would speak. In this case, we were not calling them attributes, but we were calling them fields. These are the fields that would be in the area information table. The third part would be pricing information. Is pricing information its own table, or is pricing information attached to a type of building, or is pricing information attached to an area? Because when you look at municipal rates, they'll tell you if you're in this region, the levies are higher than the levies that are found. For example, if you go to the location sites, the levies are lower than when you're staying in the suburban sites. So all that information, you are thinking it through, as well, to store information about the employees, perhaps in that part as well, is that it's on table. So this is what we want you to reflect to the assessor at this point. And if you look at it in the end, it's just said, save this database accordingly and close MX Access. So it's really more about creating tables. So the database itself is blank. You've not been given any data to fill in, and that's basically what is required on this part. So I'm not going to sit through and say, these are all the tables. We'll leave that one to yourselves. Are we good so far? Are there any questions, contributions, complaints? Or am I moving too fast? All right, seeing that there are no hands coming up, let's move on to question 3. Is there anyone who's being left behind? I hope some of you are already in front of me. We've got question 3. Now it says, use one or multiple screenshots to answer each of the questions below. Now, I want to, when you save this database, it's got to be submitted as well with your response, because it's a task that you've been asked to do. So from that submission, we will see your performance or your competence with regard to it. Then question 3 says, use one or multiple screenshots to answer each of the questions below. Number 1, open students database supplied with your assessment. The databases are on the portal. The databases are on the portal. And then add your full names in the file name of the students database. So the file name is the name of the file. So now students database becomes your name database. Do we understand that? So we're changing that file name from student database to your name database, and then open the payments information table and submit a screenshot. So we want to see if you can identify tables and you know how to open them. Then you are asked to add at least 5 fields to the payment info table. So these fields are going to be defined by yourself. And note it says at least 5. So if you feel my table should have 25 fields, that is fine. If you feel, but you cannot have less than 5, they've got to be 5, at least 5 fields on that part. Allocate relevant and different data types to your fields. So the data types, we covered that part. If it's a number, it must be reflected as a number. If it's a postal code, we have postal codes in South Africa have 4 digits. Maybe you might even go in and apply the format filter into it. The more you're putting in is the more your competence is being built up, and you're actually showing to yourself first that you have understood how to actually structure and design a database, and to the assessor as well, there's that reflection to say, okay, here we have somebody who's gone above and beyond what we just taught in class, and they've really engaged the information in order to give us the best that they can perform. Then you are asked to add at least 5 records in the payments info table. Then you're to sort the data in table 1 in ascending order and submit a screenshot that you've done that. Then you sort the data in descending order and submit another screenshot. So we have 2 screenshots in that particular question. The next Question says, illustrate how you would locate a specific record in your table. Delete that record from the table. So you show us how you have searched for it. Are you filtering? Are you searching? We want to see your process of actually finding a specific record. Note, we have not told you which record to find. So from the records that you've placed, you will show us how you've searched for one specific record. And so with a screenshot, you'd be showing that this is the record. Maybe screenshot number 2 would be, wow, because I'm illustrating. It's an illustration. It's not just one shot. So I'm illustrating. I started here. This is what it looked like at the beginning. I clicked here. This is the search or the filter I went to. I went to this part. This is the information I put inside. Next one, this was the response that I got. This is where I clicked to delete. This is what it looks like with the deleted, without the deleted record. So that is an illustration. It is not just a screenshot. And then finally, you are asked to close the payments info table. And that will be the completion of question 3. Are there any questions, contributions there, complaints, clarity? Fine, seems everything is clear so long. I will move on to the next one. Question 4, I'm just making it bigger. Sorry for keeping it small at first. Then question 4 says, use one or multiple screenshots to answer each of the questions below. I think this was the same thing with question 3. Use one or multiple. So how you understand the layout of your screen would determine how many screenshots you actually submit. Remember, by now I believe you know how to limit your screenshot sizes so that your file is not that big. But these are going to be submitted within this file, the summative assessment 5 file, and we are going to note how you've dealt with the screenshotting or with the snipping, whichever approach you're going to apply. So question 4, which is the last one, asks you to use one or multiple screenshots to answer each of the questions below. In this case, you're asked to open the customer database, which is supplied with your assessment. Enter at least 3 records in the employee information table. Obviously, you can screenshot to show us that you've done that. Open the field width of the surname. Adjust the field width of the surname field to standard width and explain the error or warning that is shown on your screen, if any. So I think it was written as of any. That's actually if any. You can correct it as we are speaking through the test. And then the next question would be, so explaining the error that is there also within our learner guides. I think it's the last section we dealt with, which was module 5. Yeah, was module 6. But that's where we take a look at the error aspects there. And you are to explain to us what you understand about the error. The next question says, delete the race field and explain the error or warning that comes up on the screen, if any. So if there's no error, there's nothing to explain. If there's an error that comes on your screen, you capture the error using your screen grab, and then you explain to us what that error. Remember, we're not saying describe the error. Explain to us why that error comes up. And then the next one says, delete the extensive ICT table, submit a screenshot that it has been deleted. And then the last question says, delete information in the last record of the customer database and submit a screenshot. And that's basically what the assessment is. Are there any questions, contributions on that part? Any person that is confused some way with any part of that part? saying, I didn't understand, can you just explain? So altogether, as I look at this assessment, I also note that it is not something that would take us days to do. In fact, an hour or 2 hours, the assessment could be done and submitted. You do note as well that it has been kept very small, which means our requests to the examiners, no, let's not call them examiners, to the assessment writers, to make them smaller but contain all the aspects, the key aspects, has been answered, it has been heard, it's been answered. So let us also return that gesture by attempting and submitting our assessments as soon as we can. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the completion of the review on summative assessment 5. Are there any summation questions on this assessment? Okay, so if there's nothing, I'll simply say, together with working with the other assessments that we've requested from the modules prior to this one, please engage these assessments as soon as you can, and we will get into assessing them. The cycle at the moment is assessment 5. But if you've not submitted your assessment 1, your 2, your module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, you must still catch up on those. And for those that have not received feedback, feedback is coming. But because of how the role has taken place in these 3 months, some of it will seem and some of it will be delayed. So you may find yourself looking at formative or summative assessment 1 when you're actually looking also at summative assessment 5 because of the gaps in between. Our holistic goal is to ensure that at the end of the day, everybody gets their qualification, even in this compressed time that we've been engaging in. So thank you for your time. With regard to this assessment, I believe we can actually move on to the next portion of today's offering. Yes, I see a hand there. It's from a Mr. Dlamini. You can go ahead, sir. Okay, put up his hand to put it down. So the next phase that we'll look at today.
Good morning, Mr. Ndlovu. Good morning,
yes,
Mr.
sir.
Ndlovu. Apologies, I was speaking behind a muted microphone. I realized I'm speaking.
All right.
Right. Good morning, colleagues. Trusting everyone is all right. I just want to add and appreciate. I think you've done it well. The aspect I wanted to add was that the assessment is due on Monday next week. But because you've said it's an hour, say let's make it due in the next 2 hours. Give them an extra hour. Say what is your view? Just kidding, colleagues. Adding that the assessment is due on Monday next week, and also following up and pushing as Mr. Ndlovu is pushing. If there are any assessments that are outstanding, please do bring them in. We are trying to recollect and we are trying to make sure that we haven't missed anyone. And then adding also to what Mr. Ndlovu mentioned earlier, the biggest problem we have is delegates that have submitted either a formative or a summative. That is one. So we need you to submit both on the portal. Also, other delegates did not submit supporting files. So I'll set an example. There was an assessment that said you need to submit the newsletter document as part of your POE file. There are delegates who did not submit those supporting or follow-up documents. So we are asking that you please check and just make sure you've submitted as per instructions on the assessment itself. And then lastly, it is also to just request. Yes, we've seen the increased amount of assessments coming through the the portal, but there are delegates who are still saying they only submitted via email. So we're pleading with those delegates to please follow up their submissions on the portal as well. Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you, Mr. Dlamini. Thanks, Kola. Some of you know him as X. Yes, Spencer?
This Kola guy has got a lot of energy. Submission is on Monday. He says in an hour's time. And we are still struggling with guys who have not even submitted assessment one. Is he really serious, this guy? Let us clean our slate, okay, Lord. Let us start with guys who did not submit module 1. When can you submit module 2, module 3? Before we get to the hour of this Tola guy, this guy, the energy is too much. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Spencer. All right, so that's where it is. And you did mention, I'm just going to reiterate, on the part of incomplete submissions. Incomplete submissions for you guys. I think you've done marking previously, and when you've got to have an attachment that is to verify or to complement what you have placed in the main assessment document, and that information is missing, it's very frustrating to the assessor. And it actually brings a delay in that I will stop assessing, were it me, and this I've met one or two or several in that regard. I'll stop assessing and give you feedback and tell you that this is incomplete. Can you please resend? There's one or two individuals that have actually re-emailed those supporting documents, but we've been saying to you, we need you to submit via the portal, because on the portal, we are able to pull out reports to say, yes, Gaylord submitted his formative assessment 5. He submitted it together with the database that he had to create, which is from question 2. He also indicated, again, when you look at the PowerPoint, there's a lot of supporting documents that had to be supplied, or files that had to be attached or accompanying the main assessment file. So you would look at the screen grabs that have been placed within the assessment file. Then you want to verify by taking a look at the actual PowerPoint presentation itself, and it's not present. And that's very frustrating to the assessor, because I have to see or make a determination based upon a competently made or achieved task. If I can't see the task, it's just like getting a word from somebody saying, oh, I know Gaylord did it quite well. I'm like, but show me, can I see evidence? So the whole thing about our occupational training is evidence. Give the evidence, that's all that we want. All right, thank you on that part. The next phase that we're gonna move into now is PowerPoint. PowerPoint, because it is the second module, and I believe we've exhausted module 1, which was intro to computers, internet, and Outlook. And of mention of that one, yes, because everybody's got a laptop which is from the GDE, and which comes preloaded with Microsoft Office, please, should you be asked to make a revision of module 1, whether it's formative or summative, except where you're specifically asked to show internet emails such as Gmail, Hotmail, or any of the others, give us your responses using Microsoft Outlook. Microsoft Outlook is what the GDE wants to standardize across the entire province. This is why you're being trained in end-user computing and using that particular software package, so that your competence in using that package is actually accentuated and you are able to engage using that specific software. So today, as I said, we're going to go to module 2, which is PowerPoint. And there we've seen a lackluster response. So before I think that this specific group, there's 38 of us in the room now, I just want to find out from us here that if you have submitted formative assessment 2, formative assessment, which is PowerPoint assessment 2. Could you just show me by a show of hands? Could you just show, just put up your hand and we know you've submitted. All right, this is kind of impressive. Are there any more? Yes.
Elon, please repeat yourself.
The question is, if you have submitted formative assessment 2, PowerPoint formative assessment 2, just indicate by showing your hand. Well, it seems like most of us have. I'm talking about, okay. Don't put up your hand. If your hand is up, please don't put it up. I need to make a determination on what to do next. Okay, so it looks like in this room right now, it's half of us that have submitted and half have not submitted. So out of the 38, that would be 16, no, not 16, 38, 19 submissions and 19 submissions not done. All right, we can put our hands down.
Mr.
Then
sure, I would be in order, sir. My request maybe would also, IT would please check if our colleagues that have got their hands up can check if their submissions reflect on the portal. I'm not sure if that would assist us, sir. So if IT is here, maybe if it's not going to take a process, just check and confirm according to the hands that are up, sir. Just a thought.
Thank you, sir. IT, that's your assignment there. All right, we can put our hands down. We can put our hands down. Fikile, Dineo, we can put our hands down. Then the second one, because I said I'm making a determination, out of the group where we are in, by a show of hands, if you have submitted PowerPoint summative assessment 2, just indicate by a show of hands. Okay, so it seems in this group we have a lot less submissions. Technical, please just give me a verification on that one. Technical, okay, not technical, I'm just repeating myself. So we seem to have a lot less submissions for a summative 2. Now, my determination that I was working on is to decide which assessment we should go through, and should we finish on the one we choose now, and we still have the time because we end at 10:30, we could still go over the other assessment as well. So I think from the number of hands, let's just go into summative assessment 2, and if we have the time, we'll then go into formative assessment 2. Okay. So let us open our summative assessment 2. Right, so we can put down our hands. Gordon, unless if you have something to say, sir. Right, so let's open our assessment. That's assessment 2. Summative 2, where's my summative 2? Where is my summative 2? It seems to have been lost somewhere in there, so I'm going to pull it up from the portal. I'm assuming everybody has got summative 2 at home. We did that way back. We've been like almost 6 weeks into it now, and for some of you, should be done and dusted. But if in case you've not downloaded it, and maybe the reason why you've not submitted is because you've not seen it at all, just download it quickly from the portal like I am doing right now. And As soon as it is downloaded, let's open it. Go. So what we should be having is this document, which is opening up on our screens now. So it would be summative assessment 2, and that's the one we dealt with PowerPoint. Now,
just a note, Mr. Ndlovu, you are
yes,
sharing your screens.
Oh, I stopped sharing. I didn't stop. I don't know how it stopped. All right, it will be coming up on the screen, but everybody should be having the assessment on their screen. It's going to load round about now. Here we go. So we'll be having summative assessment and I opened the wrong one. Summative assessment 3, not 2. Yo. We're dealing with PowerPoint, not 2, 3. My apologies. My apologies. Open summative assessment 3, not 2. Nothing. This is saying 2, 2, 2, 2. So it would be, yes, Microsoft Office PowerPoint. That is the one that we are looking at. This section we've all covered. Unfortunately, there are people that are still, I don't know whether they're struggling or they're challenged by doing their signatures. But the signature role, we covered it, we went over it. If indeed you're saying, I cannot do anything about the signature, you'd have to come on a one-to-one and not at this time. Again, it begins by answer all questions because it's a competence, it's a task aspect. And maybe here, Ola, we should ask the people who are writing this to say attempt all tasks, demonstrate all tasks, not answer all questions when we look on that part. And so we'll find out from technical, from the hands lifted up. Do you have an answer, technical, if they've genuinely submitted their PowerPoints? Just look at the hands that went up.
Yes, I can do that. We can.
So now, looking at question 1 of our summative assessment, my responsibility is to take you through the entire assessment, or can I begin by asking if there are any specific questions you would like us to take a look at? Or would you like to start at question 1 and go through all the questions that are in the assessment? Those of you that are saying start from question 1 and go through the whole assessment, just put up your hands. Indicate by a show of hands. Okay,
there
so
was
it's one or two people
in the chats that said question 1. I think it was Bongagile in the chats. If you can just
in the
check.
chat. It's question 1. All right, we can put down our hands. Well, I suppose, as I said in the beginning, that we'll go as fast as the slowest amongst us. So if we've had somebody saying, let's start with question 1, let's start on that part. So this is question 1 of summative assessment. I hope the candidate who said I'm struggling with question 1 is actually, it's just an assessment 2 PowerPoint. I don't know if it's summative or formative.
Hi, Gilot.
Yes, ma'am.
It's Ketabatle. You know what? The problem is that I thought the questions that were on a formative in terms of the HIV were similar to the ones that are in summative. So when I read the questions now, that's why I struggled with the answers or in terms of the answers for the summative. So I thought they were similar, but now I had to go back and redo and research the answers or in question 1. So that's what delayed me.
Okay, I understand. I used to do that as well in school. I think I once did it. I thought the answers were the same on both papers. I learned the other way. So thank you for flagging that up. So now let us take a look at question 1. Question 1 is talking about the pandemic that we're currently going through. And it's interesting that they already tell us that it has caught up the world. It's caught up with the world, whilst we're still living with HIV and AIDS pandemic. Nowadays, when we say we are positive, it's no longer HIV. We are positive, we ask, is it COVID? HIV is gone in the background. So from your knowledge, 1, your experience, 2, and information from various sources. So that's talking about research, it's talking about a broad worldview. Create a presentation to assist matric students, target matric students, navigate their way around HIV and AIDS and the workplace they are headed to, which is a future perspective. Vivian, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. I just want to know if we can leave the training, because some of us, we have submitted this assessment until access 5 formative.
Oh, that's a
and
very
leave
good
so
question.
that we can save our data.
All right. I will take that decision. The executives can hammer me later, but I think that's fine. If you've done the assessment and you would like to leave the session, it's okay. It will be recorded. I'll also tell the administrator they're listening somewhere to say I've excused any person that says I've done this previously. I don't have to sit through it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I note there is something in the chat. Let me just read what's there. It's a very sensitive time. All right, I've attended to that one. So now, the key aspect here is, again, it's your creativity. We're doing a slideshow, we're doing a slide presentation, and a lot of what happens with presentations, they're not exactly cut in stone. However, there's key pillars that an assessor would look out for. The first one is that all the key principles that you are guided through in your learner guide are actually reflected. So it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be bells and whistles, it doesn't have to be animated, it doesn't have to be transitions. It's just, can you do the key pillars that are required to come on this part? Secondly, can you create slides? That's one of the key pillars, because I don't think all the questions asked there, there's 16 of them, can fall into one page. So we're now looking at that aspect of, do you have not so much the creativity, but do you have the capability to now lead these matric students across what is understandable? Remember, the way they eat their elephant is not a bigger chunk like somebody who is probably in industry, and it's not as small as trying to give it to your DBE learners, probably at the foundation phase. If you try and teach a grade 3 about HIV/AIDS, which is what is being focused in. And it's interesting that they're coming in and it's talking about HIV/AIDS and not COVID-19. So some people will fall into the gap of COVID-19 when in fact the question is on one part on the one side. So this is what we want to see. Are you able to understand the problem, create a solution, and present that solution to a matric student? So that is the cherry on the cake. Question 1, explain how the latest medication can improve a patient's lifestyle and thereby also improve the person's ability to work. Also explain how lifestyle changes can further boost an infected person's immune system and prevent infection. Some of the answers that I've seen in the slides is that somebody tries to write an entire story inside a presentation. A presentation is usually in bullet form and also supported by pictures, which when structured properly would actually give all that information which you probably wanted to present in 2 or 3 paragraphs which then squeeze your text and make it very small. But that is layout and creativity, which assessors would also look into and say, are you competent in actually presenting the data that has been asked of you? So on the bigger part with this one, I don't think it was very complicated, or it's a very complicated approach with question 1. There was the individual who said, let's go through question 1. What exactly did you want us to focus on here? I think the name was Vivian. Yes, ma'am. Vivian, are you there?
Vivian, let's check.
Yes, ma'am. So I was saying on this question 1, what exactly would you like us to go through? Because as I've mentioned, what you are going to demonstrate here is your capability to create a complete presentation, bringing in all the different tools that Microsoft PowerPoint has available for you. And it's pretty obvious that you are not all going to use exactly the same tools, but in the end, can you use what is available to create this presentation? So this is what is being assessed in question 1. Are there any questions? Is there any person? Yes, I saw a hand went up and went down very quickly before I could catch with that one. Yes, please, Lisibo, go ahead, ma'am.
Gaylord, it's the server's hand that was up.
Yes.
You know, I think with the previous 2, I submitted, but with this one, I think I've collected the information. That is why I stuck, honestly and obviously. But my problem, I think, is the one that you are talking about, the creativity with the whole presentation. I think I'm not creative enough. I did not submit. I don't have all the information, but I'm not confident enough. I become confused whether am I doing the right thing. That's my problem with this PowerPoint. Not that I cannot do a PowerPoint.
Okay. Nkele? Nkele?
Good morning, colleagues.
Yes,
I'm sorry I've been out of this, but I'm back now. In this question, in simple terms, it means we must create a PowerPoint presentation on this and put this information on the PowerPoint presentation. Is that what this question is asking for?
Yes.
Okay, thank you then. All right, thank you so much.
And how you put it, as I mentioned in extension, is looking at the tools that you are using, because the assessor will say you went to this particular tab within your menu system and you managed to include something that is appealing to the matric students or the matric learners.
Oh, it
So
means
yes,
we must
the answer is yes.
We must be creative in this. Maybe we can put, and give you example, maybe we can put a video to show maybe how to prevent or how to prevent HIV infection. I'm just giving an example.
Yes, if you feel that this is the best way I can present this specific information to the matric learners, so I'm going to embed a video, go ahead and do it.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we don't expect, and I think it's there at the top 4 alerts first, when we're saying answer all or attempt all tasks, is that we don't expect you to have 2 people to have exactly the same presentation. So I've been looking at some very interesting presentations along. Spencer.
Hey, Lord, how are you?
Very well, sir.
I'm okay, as well as colleagues. I heard you speaking about, you mentioned something like the aim is to demonstrate. It's not like an examination where you need to memorize. So I'm back to question 1 and question 2 of both summative and formative of PowerPoint. And then I raised this matter with Paul, I think with you as well, because what I've done with question 2, like I said at the beginning, question 1 of both summative and informative, they lay foundation of subsequent questions.
Correct.
But I had a problem with question 1 because it was time consuming, and according to me, it was not relevant to PowerPoint. But later on, I was explained to why it is part of that. Then, as a demonstration, if you can take any PowerPoint presentation, any PowerPoint, inclusive of the one of HIV and AIDS, but you can take a power presentation of people in church, you can take power presentation of any forum. My assumption is, can you demonstrate bulleting? Can you demonstrate background? Can you demonstrate presentation of graphs? Can you demonstrate presentation of changing this graph to that graph? Can you? That is what you're actually looking for. That is what you, if I paraphrase your word. So my problem with the feedback and the assessment I submitted to you, the assessment I submitted as a response to my question, I did not do anything to do with HIV and AIDS because according to me, it was very time consuming. But I submitted slides which demonstrated all the questions you asked. Please do a slide with animation, attach a video with sound, make slides with wet art, attach, fill the paint, what. So I would like to make a special request to the marker based on the background of the statement you issued. I demonstrated everything as per the questions, but I did not submit questions as per the foundation based on question 1. Thank you.
All right, to respond to you, why is this thing so slow? I put this in front of your screen. You'll understand that you've gone through an RPL process of unit standard 13915. Demonstrate knowledge and understanding of HIV/AIDS in a workplace and its effects on a business subsector, your own organization, and specific workplace. I'm just going to reshare my screen again. It should pull it up for you. So the reason why that question is particularly structured on HIV/AIDS is that with the context of this assessment, we are assessing you on your knowledge and understanding of HIV/AIDS in the workplace. This is this one here, Sir Spencer. Can I just highlight that? Because this is a requirement of your qualification. So it cannot be about church, it cannot be about soccer, it cannot be about your family. You must demonstrate knowledge and understanding of HIV and AIDS. If you recall, I think I'm the one that actually did it when we're at in Johannesburg. What's the name of that center again, where we went to get our forms the very first time? I said to you, in order to achieve an RPL, there is a particular checklist that we do in the background to ensure that we convince EDTP sitter, the sitter that is going to give you the final qualification, that you actually have knowledge of that unit standard. So in creating these questions or these assessments, we have embedded these key points within another particular task. And from that, we're able to identify that you can demonstrate knowledge and understanding of HIV and AIDS, specifically in a workplace. This is why that question says to you, show the matric learners how HIV and AIDS works out in the workplace, which they are going to. So from that, we take that information, And within our assessments, when we give feedback on this unit standard specifically from our checklist, which we then forward to the SETA, they are able to see that genuinely and accurately so you do have competence in this unit standard. Spencer.
Yeah, it is well understood and driven home. I would like to add this. See, on my assessment, I'm not sure how you're going to do it, but I attached the HIV and AIDS certificate I have. So which gonna go to your RPL. I assume it's gonna be satisfactory. But I still have got a problem, Gaylord. As part of the package of this course, you say you must demonstrate knowledge of HIV and AIDS in this regard. But please understand, most of us, we are educators. Then why not as part of, why only HIV and AIDS? I'll be happy if they can say, fine, we have done Excel spreadsheet. And as an educator, you are dealing with assessment of learners where you capture learner marks and all this. Please do that.
No, Spencer, sorry, because of the time factor. This is why I did not say this is an education qualification. The qualification is end user computing. It's not from the Department of Education. For you to achieve the qualification in end user computing, you have to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of HIV and AIDS in a workplace. It's not about being an educator in a school or in any organization. So what we have done is we have embedded different key pointers which point to the SETA that you can demonstrate this knowledge. And in your case where you have a certificate that speaks to that part, that certificate becomes an instrument that can be used. Again, that same instrument is going to be assessed for its content. If its content markers reflect what is required in the unit standard 13915. This is why when you look at your Excel, you have basic, intermediate, and advanced. So all of these issues come together. So your case is dealt with by the administrator separately. And until you receive any information beyond that, you are required to then do this assessment based upon the questions that are given. You can't twist and change. And coming back to the education system, if I'm sitting with a question that's given to me in an exam, I cannot suddenly say, because I am in this particular sector, maybe I shouldn't touch on this, they should understand what I want. It's not about understanding, it's about showing competence with regard to the unit standard itself, not to what I think I know or what I've done previously, but can I, based upon that certificate, which I say I have, in your case, which you do have, can you demonstrate that knowledge and understanding of HIV/AIDS in a workplace? And that's what makes you competent. So that's the response to that. Ola, I think I saw your hand up, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ndlovu. I think you've answered it correctly. I see Spencer's hand is still up. I'm not sure if I want to check with him if he's got a follow-up question first.
Yes,
if so, then
yes,
come in. Go ahead, sir.
I appreciate the response, but now it leaves me hanging because now I haven't received the assessment results.
Okay, Spencer, I think in your case, administrator will engage you directly because your case is unique, particularly with regards to the other qualification that you have. And any other person here, if you have that kind of qualification within your portfolio of evidence, you are going to be engaged in that regard. So thank you there, Spencer. I think that concludes the aspect of prior qualifications and recognition of prior learning and all of that requirement. I will now proceed. So we're looking at question 1, and I was asking that I had mentioned that with question 1 is a reflection of your understanding holistically of how to build a PowerPoint presentation. Number two, there isn't a set rule or there isn't a set checklist. Well, there is a checklist which the assessor uses, but for you in your creation of that particular presentation, there isn't any specific format that you must follow. But questions are asked to see if you can reflect the knowledge and understanding of HIV/AIDS in the workplace. The other aspects of bringing in matric students and mentioning COVID-19 and other mention that is made in that question, particularly in the preamble of that question, is for those that probably are not very clued into HIV in the workplace. You might get lost and give a response that does not reflect that competence. This is why this question is not 1 or 2 lines. The 15 or 16 questions that are there are actually a type of checklist for the assessor to see if you've covered all the different SOs. Those are the expectations of the unit standard themselves. Whether it's your SOs or your ACs, we've actually structured that question, those questions, the 16 questions, in both formative assessment and in summative assessment to reflect your knowledge and understanding. And from those key markers, we're able to say, with regard to this unit standard, this person has achieved it. So it is not a by the way, it is an actual unit standard which contributes to your qualification. So this is what question 1 is dealing with in particular. So we've then mixed it together with PowerPoint presentation and, you know, you showing your competence in making a slideshow. That's fine. But ultimately, we are dealing with one unit standard in this question specifically. Are there any questions? I'll move on to question 2. Question 2 is dealing with unit standard 116930. This is the other clue that you should be using when answering these assessments. So if I go back to the top very quickly. So on this question, you are told you're dealing with 13915. This is question 1. And 13915 is this one. Demonstrate knowledge and understanding. The second one is 116930. And for this one, we want to see if you can use a GUI-based presentation application to enhance a presentation appearance. So to enhance is now to bring in your bells, whistles, colors, you know, the way you would look at advertising or marketing and say, hey, this one I think is more attractive than the other one. And the key word there is enhance. So when we're dealing with assessments, every single word that is placed there, look at it specifically. Let's go line upon line, word upon word, because that will give you a clue to what you are dealing with within that question itself. So we're going back to 116930, which is question 2. So we're dealing with enhancing a presentation. So now we're told to perform. I'll tell our writer that it's not perform, it's perform. Okay, perform below. You can correct that. It is a Word document, so you can correct it for yourself. If it's got a review, by now you know where to remove the tracking changes that are there. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that one. So we asked to perform below a new PowerPoint presentation. In the PowerPoint presentation formative assessment question 3, copy the academic data graph and change it to a pie chart. So now we're referencing to a source that you already have, and you received it in the formative assessment. So that was academic data that's available from the formative assessment, and it was mentioned in question 3. So if you've not done your formative assessment, which is supposed to form your response so that you can summate it in your summative, you might get confused and get lost at this point. But that's what you asked for. And the enhancement is to change this graph, the academic data graph, and create a pie chart with the same data that was received. The second part, we want to see if you can change the chart colors to extensive colors as shown on the extensive company logo. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the extensive company logo. Is there anyone who doesn't have it? By show of hands, maybe we'll send it to you. Question 2. On a new slide, create an organogram similar to the one below. Your organogram does not need to be exactly the same. Maybe here I should should I demonstrate how to make an organogram? Is there anyone who does not know how to create an organogram? Who say, I'm going to get lost with this organogram thing here. We are going to see which tools you are going to use within Microsoft PowerPoint. Are you just going to take blocks from your shapes and place them there? Are you going to use smart art? There's a clue to actually create that for you. Which tool are you going to apply to enhance your presentation on that part? Denzel, your hand is up, sir.
Yes, Caleb, I just want to ask, man. I've completed this assessment already.
Yes, sir.
And everything that you are saying here, I've already applied. So I'm just wondering, is it necessary for me to sit in this?
No, sir. I did mention with the other lady who asked this about 10 or so minutes ago that if you have done this assessment and you're fine with it, it's okay. You can leave the session.
Okay, then I can concentrate on the others.
Yeah. So if I'm repeating it now for everybody who's listening. If you have done the assessment and you're competent, you're happy, you don't have questions or anything on it, you can leave the session. It's all right. Thank you. Thank you, Denzel.
Thanks.
So on this part, I'm asking, I don't think anybody's got issues with the organogram. We are going to take a look, unless if you're saying to me, I've got an issue with the organogram, I need a demonstration of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and we can go ahead and do that for you. Seeing that there are no hands, let's go to question 3. In a new slide, so these are key points. On a new slide, in a new slide. So we're looking at your slide creation. Draw the same office structure you drew in your formative assessment, but draw it in 3D shapes for this assessment. So in your formative, we saw that you can draw your office structure, and in this one, can you enhance what you did in the first one? That is what will be assessed in question 3, or in question 2.3. Coming to question 3 itself, now we are dealing with 258880. What does that require of us? Again, I zoom up to the top, and I recall that this is unit standard I'm looking at, is to the ability to utilize special features to enhance presentation. So here we're just enhancing a presentation appearance, what it looks like. Now we bring in special features. Whilst I am here, I would like to ask, this might seem like a funny question, but it's important because it's what we should have really tapped into at the beginning. Do you know, or is there anyone who says, I am not sure on how to read a unit standard document? Is there anyone here saying, I don't know how to read a unit standard document? Or maybe by asking that question, I'm putting you on the spot. Maybe what I should do is just pull up a unit standard document, and yeah, I think I'll do it that way. And we will come back to where we are. So the unit standard document I'm going to pull up here from SAQA is going to be 25880, and just telling it to pop up there. And I'll also show you a clue on how we actually assess when it comes to this thing. I don't know if you've done the assessor course or if you've done the moderator course. previously. I know there's a move within GDE to get everybody to do that, or maybe not everyone, but for most individuals to understand how that works through. And it's therefore not a loss to walk you through. So I'm putting up on our screen a unit standard document. Why? And the system is catching up somewhere. I'm just going to plop it up or pop it up back on our screen, and we'll take a look at that one. So within this unit standard, which is 25880, we're told to utilize special features to enhance presentations. And you can actually use the same unit standard document to assess what we are assessing you. Perhaps we're asking you to be a rocket scientist, when in fact all we want, what is required by the unit standard is actually a lot less than that. So you can also look at if you're being treated appropriately. Now I'm waiting for the share to come on, and it's taking its sweet time. All right, it will catch up on that part. Technical, why is my share not coming on? It's sort of like a blank look now, which tells me it's supposed to be affecting a share, but it is not showing on your screens. I will stop the share and share it again. That's what I'm doing now. And now affected the share. So whilst you're looking at your unit standard document, your assessment document, whilst I'm waiting for the share to come on, I'll just talk to it because I believe you are seeing it on your screen. I don't want to delay the process. We've got 30 minutes to complete. The instructions that are given there, oh, there we go. That's what I wanted. Perhaps now I can have this appear on the screen as well. The instructions that you want there are saying, oh, good. So this is a unit standard document that we receive from SAQA. It's our guiding instrument on what is required of us. Again, here, Spencer, you can go on, if you're still around, you can go and pull down the unit standard document for that HIV and AIDS requirement, which gets tested within this qualification itself. So I'm making it a little bigger on the screen here. And so it's obviously a level 3, so, and it's 3 credits, not only, it's 3 credits, and you must utilize special features to enhance presentations. And so we go further down, it tells you the purpose of why you must know this unit standard. Manipulating graphs, using charts, graphs to enhance presentations, adding sound and video. Somebody talked about video earlier on. Customizing and controlling a slideshow, transitions, timings, all those different aspects come into play when we look at that. So you're creating and using templates within a graphic user-based presentation application. So this purpose social flag gives an idea. Then it says learning assumed to be in place. This is where we look at your RPL. So some of these things you're not going to cover. We're not going to teach you communication, NKF level 2, computer literacy, NKF level 2. There is assumptions that we've placed into that part. Then you've obviously known that we have specific outcomes and assessment criteria. So can you use a template? That's the specific outcome. The assessment criterion that we then test you is a template is created for presentation purposes using available features. So this is why we give you examples. We ask you particular questions to see if you can reflect the assessment criterion. So you've got your criterion range, which means but not limited to using a background fill, graphic images, bullets. Somebody mentioned bullets earlier on, fonts and outlines. What type of font are you using? Some people within the graphic arts know which font is better when you want to print on a piece of paper, when you want to put a billboard out on the street, or when you want to make a very nice PowerPoint presentation. Which one comes out best for you? We're not going to talk about fonts in this particular one. So this is what this whole section speaks to. Let's look at another specific outcome. It says use charts graph to enhance presentations. And then the relationship of information to be used in a presentation is discussed, outlining advantages and disadvantages of linked sources. So when we're facilitating, we have to show the relationship of information, talk to you about it, so that you have an idea and a clue of how it gets presented and how it's an expectation. So this same expectation going on, I'm not going to go through the whole set because I'm sure you guys have actually engaged this particular part. Then we've got accreditation and moderation options. This is what you do to come through on it. Unit standards that are embedded knowledge within policies, procedures, ethical codes. So there's a whole lot of things that are grouped into all of this. I think the one I wanted to flag out, this is your critical crossfield areas. Crossfield, it means how are you integrating everything else that you know? Unit standard CCF identifying and solving problems in which responses display the responsible decisions using critical and creative thinking have been made when objects are grouped and ungrouped on a slide. So these are basically aspects that you brought in from Microsoft Word. So all these different skills, tools that we're putting up on them. So there's identification, there is working, there's organization, collecting, communicating. There's the science of it, demonstration. What's your registration? This is the registration history of the unit standard, so I'm not going to delve on that. But here's an interesting aspect. Qualifications that are utilizing this unit standard. So the one that's there, this is the old code. We're now using 49077, but it is actually end user computing, and it's only worth within the context of the, how many again? Is it 200 and I forget the full number of credits are there, but it contributes 3 credits to your qualification. And that's what the whole unit standard. This is how we build your assessments. We don't just pick them up in the air. We have to use this document because there's a moderator who's going to come in and take a look at the assessment. And that would be a moderator here. And another moderator will come from the SITA to ensure that we don't deviate from the national curricula that is given to us. So I'm going back to our question, and we'll just complete it from there. So we're told in this part to open and edit the PowerPoint presentation template you created in your formative assessment. Change colors of the template to extensive colors as seen as extensive logo. Insert the logo of your company as a background to the template you created. If you recall, on the other side, we spoke about you being able to deal with templates. So we want to see if you can come in and add in, I mean, you can deal with backgrounds. So we come in and deal with backgrounds. Insert a date at the top right of the header of your slide. Can you insert a date? Can you position according to the instruction that is given? Insert page numbers to your presentation. You're not told where to put the page numbers, but can you place a page number? That is what that unit standard requires you. The number 2, open and edit the presentation you created in the formative with a drawing of your office structure. We just touched on it in set questions 2, and now you're asked to open it again in 3.2. And you're asked to select and group all the shapes you used to draw your office diagram. Are you able to group shapes? And I believe we covered that part as well. Create a hyperlink to your company's website address within one of the shapes. So if your company does not have, I think we all have a company, it's called GDE, okay? So yeah, if you say I don't have a URL or a web address to put there, we're all working for that company. So let's put our address on that part. And then 3 says, open the slide with your academic data. And I think this is a slide that we've not done in summative assessment, Formative Assessment 3, which was asked for us to take a look at. I think it was in question 2, the last part of that question. Now add a main title to your graph, a series, a border, labels, add a narration to your presentation. Now this is interesting. How do you think we can add a narration to our presentation? Anybody? Anyone? I've actually been narrating my presentation to you. So you could actually do something with the voice on that part. So you're adding a narration to help this, the assessor to understand what you have done with regard to your presentation. Now illustrate how you would hide a slide in your presentation. So this is process. It takes us back to like what we're doing when we're looking at that access assessment, where we are now getting screen grabs because we're illustrating. This is how I would do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 45, step 100, step 1 million if it takes that lot. But you're basically taking us through the entire cycle of how you would hide. So it can be one screenshot or multiple screenshots. That is your decision to take. Question 4, again, is on 25880. We now have an idea of what the unit standard requires. And this time we are writing, explain why the relationship of information in the presentation is important, including its advantages and disadvantages. So we're coming in and we're now typing. Remember, when we're typing in, when you press enter at that point, it increases the bulleting. So to avoid that, we press tab or use this tab tool at the top, which is to increase an indent, and it will turn that to 1A and not number 2. And then we write our answer. And when we're done writing our answer, when we press enter, it gives us a B. We simply backspace and it takes out that number. That way your numbering is not going to get confused. And this is part of the assessment processing. Do you know how to lay out and present your information even on a Microsoft Word document? Number 4, list. Can you list? Steps 1 should follow to link a graph or chart to data outside of Microsoft PowerPoint. There is within that unit standard, in the learner guide, in fact, a whole outline of how to do a linking of external data. So you list the steps. You're not explaining, you're listing the steps. Step 1I, step 2I, step 3I, step 4I, step 5I, step 6, step end. Question 3, give clear examples of scenarios where data can be sourced from outside of Microsoft PowerPoint. Again, within our learner guide, that has been expressly discussed when we're dealing with getting external data or importing data into a presentation or to a PowerPoint slide. So altogether, we don't feel that it's going to be very complicated work on your part, unless if there's anyone saying to me at this point, I'm missing out something here. Can you please explain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? There is no right or wrong question. We are building our ability and competence and understanding of what we are supposed to do. And to put some of you at peace, I also started where you are. Somebody had to teach me how to use a computer, and I wasn't always where I am today. The last part of that question is explain how you would plan, rehearse, deliver a presentation using MS PowerPoint, making sure that you deliver a powerful presentation. I don't know what a powerful presentation is. Yeah. But now you're explaining, so we don't have screenshots. You can put screenshots if you want, if you think that is going to enhance your explanation. Or you can use words. Maybe some of you are great writers and you just know how to type things through, and that's how it works. Ask Kelly, question or contribution.
Mr. Gillett, it's not a question. It's making the answer a 1 year. When now we explain, also a little sometimes. Answer a 1 year, just in a 1 year.
Okay, what's the question you have?
Like how far the steps? Just give 1 step, just to stimulate us.
To stimulate.
No, you explain. Sometimes, like, can I question my hyperlinking, but because I didn't get to that. I'm going to ask how to hyperlink. I didn't get the hyperlinking story, but as you explain, example just to stimulate us. Thank you.
All right, which question you Matata, ma'am?
No,
or anyone.
No, it's no hyperlinking. It's not about a process. Yeah, hyperlinking. Problem. I didn't get the hyperlinking story properly.
All right, I don't want to go like did I say? So the question says, I don't want to question first. This one, it said hyperlinking wasn't even here.
Top, the top, go number 3, yes. Mona, yes. And question 2, bullet number 4, create a hyperlink
of your
company, yes.
web address within one of the shapes. All right. But I asked, would there any questions there? You let me go. Kelly. Then tomorrow you say facilitator does not allow us. Okay, so this is my PowerPoint, and I'm going to create a whole new slide. So at the end, I have a blank slide. Now we're told to work with shapes. So to do shapes, I've got a shapes counter here, and I'm going to come into the shapes part, and I'm going to choose maybe one shape. Let me use the circle shape, and I'll simply draw those. No, seems I can do more than one. So we also got insert shapes within the format tab, and I put an arrow, and I'll put a star, and put a box, or you know. Okay, so I'm asked to put a hyperlink. So a hyperlink says I should use one of these to actually point to a website. So I could then write on this one and put something like visit website, or click here to visit website. Click here for websites. I can already see that this orange color might be too bland. Let's give it a contrast and make it very blue. Okay, so click here for website, and I'm putting it at the top left-hand corner. Now to put our hyperlink, first of all, there's several ways to do it. I'll see if I can demonstrate 2, 3, or 4. You can put your hand down, get it. If I right-click, where's my mouse? If I right-click on that shape, I get an option called hyperlink. So I can then click on hyperlink, and it gives me an option to insert the hyperlink. The first one is insert a file or web page. This is linking to my computer at the moment. I can place this link within another document, create a whole new document, or put an email address. All right, but I'm going to come back to existing file or existing web page, and I'm asked to then place the address. So the address I know is http www.gde. What's it? Is it .gov? .za. It might not be GDE, it might be education. Okay, so when I do that, what's the web address here? Education. Education. I don't want to write. I want to write one that exists. Okay, fine. Extensive. That's my company. Extensive.co.za. And I click OK. Now, note that within this presentation window, whilst I am working on it, mouse, come back. There you go too. The mouse is pitching up at the top, but it's disappearing in the document. Yeah, the mouse is disappearing, people. But note that in this space, I cannot follow the link here. The link is followed in the presentation itself. So I'm now going to go to the presentation. There's the mouse. Oh, yeah. So it tells me that a hyperlink has been placed on that particular shape. And if I want to visit it from there, I need to press Control on my keyboard and click to follow that link. So here I am testing to see if that link works. And it looks like extensive.co.za doesn't work. What's happening here? Where's technical? Technical, why is extensive not working?
So I think just to highlight, Mr. Ndlovu, I think it's the website. It is not really correct. It's extensive ICT.
Aha! Hey, my employer is going to.
Don't worry, won't tell them. Mr. Ndlovu, my apologies for just unmuting myself and jumping in. I'm going to jump off the session, but I just wanted to come in with 2 inputs. Well, I've determined, no, the delegates today have fired me with shots from left, right, and center. I don't know, Nkile says you're like me. Don't be like me, sir. Don't be like me. You must give the answer.
I didn't want to say that. I wanted to.
Wait, Nkile, no, I'm kidding. No, Nkile, I'm kidding. It's a light note. But what I wanted to say is, Mr. Ndlovu, I think what Nkile raised is very key and important. In the sense that, colleagues, the reason we are doing this, or the reason Mr. Ndlovu is going through this, is so that we assist you relevantly. And I'm appreciating Nkile's input that says, guide us practically, Mr. Ndlovu. So I think I just want to assist and request colleagues there to come out with more inputs of this sort, so that we can guide you and go into it, drill into it, and really assist you with this assessment. I've noted that a lot of delegates are still in the meeting, which means that is where I'm taking cognizance to say delegates are saying we're struggling with this assessment. So I want, with the session that is left behind, maybe to get more such questions that say, tell us how to hyperlink, tell us how to rotate a shape. And then I think also then regarding the issue of the RPL, I just want to further highlight that yes, the RPL process will still be undertaken. Importantly, the RPL process is not a blanket cover, colleagues. In what sense? It basically doesn't mean because there is RPL, everyone will go through that RPL. So some of us are privileged. We've been through these courses, HIV and AIDS, and we'll be able to then go through that particular procedure and successfully attain competence. However, some of us, I appreciated one other delegate that said we've done the collection of the data. Some of us will have to go through actually doing question 1 to make sure we get the assessments in. And I think in that way, then in terms of what our colleague earlier Spencer was mentioning, we need to then, yes, clean our slate in that fashion to say both ends need to be undertaken. One, we need to check the qualifications. If not, then we need to do the question in itself. Otherwise, then RPL will then still be undertaken. I think those are the 2 items I wanted to add there to say, very importantly, we must just balance the 2 and make sure we cover them correctly, making sure we bring up those technical questions and also doing the actual work in terms of doing the research and submitting it in that fashion. I think that's my inputs, and I want to appreciate everyone and say thank you very much. I think maybe on a lighter note, or on a more serious note, Mr. Ndlovu, we want to say we acknowledge, colleagues, that we're on level 4 currently, and we want to say teachers are the ones affected currently with this COVID-19. They are sort of similar to nurses, and we want to say we are sensitive to that setup, colleagues. And our hearts are out with you. You are in our prayers, and consistently we are considerate of the pressures that this pandemic has put through to all of us, more especially our colleagues, educators here. Thank you, Mr. Ndlovu. I think from my side, that's what I just wanted to say bye-bye with.
All right.
Unless there's a question for me, sir.
I know. I see now you're doing like me now. You are clarifying things. Thanks, X. Right.
I also want to be like you, Mr. Ndlovu. You mustn't be like me. You must be like
so, so Nkele, on that part, I think we now know how to put a hyperlink. Yes or no?
Yes, yes. But now that hyperlink, it means now where do I get? I want to go to that question. Where is my presentation? It's this one. I want to go to that question. I've opened the wrong one, I think. What question? Question 2, ne? The hyperlink one. Where do I get that? Where do I get that HH whatever? Yaro now. Do I need ours? Our department one, the hyperlink which I need to put here. Hello.
Okay,
Yes,
so Mkile, you would have to check it on the internet. So, for instance, if you have the website here, the department, whether department or school, then yes, you can check it just like you can see on Mr. Ndlovu's screen there. You've got extensive ICT. So we went to the literal website.
I want that question now. I don't know where is my question paper. My
right, I'm seeing the question here.
Must find me.
Because I've opened so many things here on my so many assessments. No, not this one. Oh, okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll go through the question, then I'll look for that because I didn't understand what hyperlink story. Now I know. And then when I click on that, what is going to happen? Yes. Yeah.
When you click on the hyperlink.
Yes.
All right. So let's go to that particular demonstration. So we've come back to the page where we put shapes. So we know how to put shapes. Yes. Good. And then we saw how to put a link. So I'm going to come to this circle and I will write link on it and I'll demonstrate how to do it again.
Take off this one. This question. I think we're on the wrong question now. Just
no, I'm on the right question, I think, but let me just demonstrate the linking again.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we right click on the link. I think the other one is to go to insert and we should find link. Okay, add a hyperlink. Look at the icon. It's a globe shape that has a linking sign. And when I right click on just the text only, why is it not coming up here? All right, fine. So when I select that one and I go to that link sign there.
Wait, you first went to insert.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I went to the insert tab.
Okay.
Insert tab in the links group. Insert tab in the links group. We have the first link which has a globe or what looks like a globe of the world. And when you click on this globe, it gives us this input sign. Then we write the address as we know it. So that HTTP was from me, that the address for extensive ICT is http www.extensiveict.co.za. So you write in whatever URL or web address you want that shape to link to. Then we click OK. And immediately you can tell that the color of the link has changed. And when you hover your mouse over it, you now get this flag that tells you that you have a link associated with that text. To then get to the link, you are informed that you click Control on your keyboard and then click the link itself, and that should then open the web page that has the address which you wrote. So I'm waiting for that web page to open up. We'll come back to that part. Why is it so slow? The other one was fast. Or maybe it has opened up faster. It says not responding. Why did my PowerPoint not respond? But that's, in short, how we deal with our links.
So, if I may ask, Mr. Gaylord.
Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes I used to see this on, maybe we have somebody's presenting to us. Then he will put this link he has, he said, go to this link. Does that mean if maybe you click on that link, then you are going to get the information you want? The information which is in here, I don't know, because I used to see this on some of the presentation and I didn't know what is this for.
I'm trying to understand your question. Just ask it again.
Right. In some of the presentation we are attending, the training we are attending, they will put a link like this. So my question is, what is the purpose of putting this link? What does this link tells us?
Oh, okay. The reason I would put a link there is I'm just going to demonstrate by going to slide 2, and I'm saying please download MS Access Formative 5 and MS Access Summative 5 from the portal. Okay, so you don't have it in this presentation, but I'm telling you to go to the portal to go and download the assessments. So I could add on and say from, or let's just say, click here for portal, or to go to portal, So this becomes a direction point for you to then leave the presentation and open up an internet browser in order for you to get to the portal. So what I would then do is create a hyperlink on this text and direct you to the extensive portal, which is extensive.udu.com, right? extensive.udu.com. And I leave it in that context. So when you then come in and you are looking at the presentation, I'm going to go to a slideshow now. Start it from this current slide. When you click or when you come to this particular area, the link that's there, oh, I left out the HTTP. So let me go back into the document.
You didn't click OK, yes.
Yeah. So I'm just going back into the document to correct that. And with regard, I'm supposed to put HTTP there so that it knows it's a website. And with regard to this assessment, it's actually talking of shapes. So I could go back to insert a shape and use this arrow key to say, if you click on this arrow, you would actually go to the site, or you can go to the website, and I place that hyperlink on it, http extensive.ict.udu.com. Okay, so now for my own testing purposes, whilst I'm designing, I follow the command that says click control plus click to follow the link. So that's one way of doing it. And as you can see, it's opening a browser page, and it has taken me to exactly that link that I told it to. And then in the context of a user or somebody who is going through the actual presentation, here we go, because I've been going through the start of the presentation and I want to go to the site. In this case, I don't click control. So you would be using it, you'd be going through the presentation on your computer and you just click on the actual link that's given. And again, when you do that, it takes you to the web page that gives you that resource. That is why we would put a link in a PowerPoint presentation. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure, ma'am.
All right.
My pleasure. As we're going through, and as you mentioned the other aspect, I thought, let me just speak to grouping. While I was speaking, I was just grouping in the background. Not that you don't know it, but I assume everybody knows it. If I want to move this red block, it moves on its own. It doesn't allow me to move all the other 3 blocks that are above it. So in the grouping, I select by dragging over all the shapes. All the shapes that were covered will be indicated by the resize pointer. So it tells me this one is not completely covered, so I can do it again. Go over all of them, and this time around we can see that this one is selected, the arrow is selected, the star is selected, the rectangle is also selected, but I want to be able to move all of them at once without having to select them backward and forth. So if I right click now, I have an option called group. When I click on group, it asks me if I want to group. So I'll click on group, and when that happens, the resize pointers now appear around all the shapes that are within the presentation itself. So this time around, I don't move just one. When I move all of them at the same time, and I can resize all of them at the same time. So that is the grouping that we are asked to do in that question. Do we understand this part, or should I repeat it?
It's clear.
It's clear. All right,
Yes.
Thank you. Please don't get lost, people. If you feel you're lost, let's redo it. There is no rush. This is essay. So where were we with that? I want to close this presentation and get to assessment. Oh, there we go. So in conclusion, because it's 10:30, we are told to open slide academic data, put a main titles, data series, border, labels, narration, and illustrate how we would hide a slide in our presentation. Would you like me to demonstrate this one?
What did you say is narration?
Narration is where you talk to what's taking place. You narrate. So there is a way of putting voice, of recording voice into our presentations.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am. I like that laugh. Oh. So remember, we are enhancing presentations by bringing in the bells and whistles, video, audio, linking websites. If you want, you can have animations, thing twisting back and forth. It is basically you taking all of those presentations to another level. And that's what we want eventually. So to narrate is to give a spoken or written account of, to deliver a commentary, to accompany a film, broadcast, piece of music. I think it says PowerPoint presentation here. Yeah, that is what to narrate is. So fortunately, with the internet, we don't get lost. Once we are familiar with how to use our communication tools, we get as much information when we want it and how we want it. So ladies and gentlemen, the time is 10:30, and I think we should stop here today. The conclusion part of all of this is that it's just the steps that are there in the learner guide. There is nothing that will be given to you here which has not been covered in the lesson circumstance or situation. All right. And if you feel that you're having a challenge in doing any of these assessments, refer first to the learner guide. You'll probably find, you'll definitely find steps thereof, which you can follow, and they'll help you to recall what was done within the team's lesson, and you just give us that information back. Although it is a lot nicer that you've practiced through it, and you yourself, can tell us what these steps are, because they just reflect what you know and what you would like to convey. And so with those few words, thank you for being here today. Can we please make sure that we get our assessments in, work those assessments. Work the assessments, find an hour, find 2 hours somewhere, and just work the assessments and let them come in so that we